The Baltimore Ravens lose a close matchup in a game they probably should have won against the Jaguars. That has us asking questions about their true ability to be a contender. And after Sunday, love hurts. Do the Green Bay Packers have a quarterback decision following the close loss to the Jalen Hurts-led Philadelphia Eagles? We'll talk about that and more with the one and only Pro Football Network senior NFL analyst, Mr. Trey Wingo, who's going to join me right now.
What's up, buddy? How we doing?
We're good. We're good. Trey, typically I love to, as soon as you come on the show, we go, are we going to need a bigger boat? But I don't see that. Where are you at these days?
No, we are at the Hilton Logan Airport Hotel. We are beginning our travels west. We're flying out tomorrow morning. So the idea of, you had two choices. Get up at 2:30 in the morning to get here for a 7 a.m. flight, or get up here tonight and chill out and then make it easier. So we went with that, and this will be the last show I do from the Eastern time zone, and we will be talking to you from the beautiful mountain area of Rancho Mirage starting next week.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That this always starts my favorite time of the year when we do our shows together, because you're in the sunny, beautiful landscapes, and I am in the gray, dreary Northeast for the rest of the winter. So thanks for that.
We all make choices.
That's true.
But cheers to your gray. Just
I appreciate you. So we're gonna get going here. Always time to give our audience an education when we start off the show here at Football Insiders each and every week. It is time to learn. And Trey, the first team that we're going to talk about here in terms of our belief here is the Tennessee Titans. Titans lost a game against the Cincinnati Bengals this week in which they could have cemented themselves, as they had last season, as a true contender. They scored less than 20 points, just over 2 touchdowns with 16 points, and they lost to last year's AFC champion, the Cincinnati Bengals. Is this a game that gave us a story about both teams, Trey? Do you believe in the Tennessee Titans?
Well, it did and it didn't. And to answer your question, I do believe in the Tennessee Titans. And because the reason I'll say that is because I've seen them do it before. Like, Tennessee never wins pretty. They're going to win ugly. And, it's like the old Mark Twain line, never get into an argument with an idiot. They'll drag you there to their level and beat you with experience. That's what the Titans do, which is, I need to preface this by saying they're not idiots, but they get you to where they want you to play. And they're in every game. I mean, they went to overtime with the Chiefs without having a wide receiver have a single reception. This is the genius of Mike Vrabel. Like, Mike Vrabel is far and away the best branch of the Belichick coaching tree, even though he never coached under Bill, but he played under Bill. And this is where he learned everything that he's doing now. It's not even close. Mike Vrabel does more with less than any other coach in football. So I absolutely still believe in the Titans. Now, their running game was non-existent against the Bengals. I think King Henry had 38 yards on 17 carries, like 2-point-something yards per carry. So give the Bengals defense all the credit in the world. And they actually had a chance to potentially pull out a win when the Bengals took a field goal off the board because the Titans bum rushed the center, which you cannot do. And I saw your tweet about that, by the way, Brett Yaris.
Did you see my reply to that tweet before you crucify me for that? For the initial
I will not. I did not. I just to be fair, and this is going to sound like the douchiest thing of all time, but when you have as many followers as I have, I don't rarely look at the mentions, because if I looked at the mentions all day and responded to the mentions, I would literally have time for nothing else in my day.
This is true.
So yes, I did. What was your response? I'm just curious.
Well, first
for
of all,
those that don't know, hold on. Let's set the stage.
Sure.
You tweeted, "I can't believe the referees did that and let that decide the game. This was a joke and a travesty."
Correct.
And I retweeted it by saying, "I can't believe the Titans committed that ridiculous penalty. It's a joke and a travesty that they did that to lose the game. Hashtag fixed it for you."
Correct. Now, and what I want everyone to understand is, unlike Trey, I don't have the follower count that you have, my friend. And so when you quote tweet me, which I always love because I gain a lot of followers that way. But I also get like the angry, they don't respond to you. They click into the tweet of mine that you quote, and then they start coming after me.
Yeah.
But I had also tweeted clarification. They in the game they called the penalty on number 97. His name was Strong, and when I watched the broadcast replay, that's who I was watching, and he did not commit the penalty. They called it on the wrong player. So when I
Right.
watched
That
it,
that happens all the time, by the way. The
yeah,
refs get the number wrong. Literally, I would say on a third of every penalty called.
right. So when I watched it, I watched 97 actually engage with Ted Karras, who was the left guard to the long snap
Right.
in the field goal
Right.
unit. And I'm like, what? That's not a penalty. He didn't even touch the center. He's with the guard. And actually,
Yeah.
then when I went back and looked, number 98 did commit the penalty. It was
Jeffrey
a
Simmons.
penalty, and it was a good.
Yeah.
It was a good.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, just personal aside there. By the way, I love it when I get this close to the camera. Yeah, look, I believe in the Titans because I believe in Mike Vrabel. They're never going to be pretty. It's never going to be
Right.
attractive. It's never going to be, ooh, that's the way I want to see my football played. But they win a lot. They were the number one seed last year in the AFC. Like people forget, they were the number one seed in the AFC. They're not going to be the number one seed in the AFC this year, but they're
No.
going to win that division. They're going to win that division going away, the AFC South, and they're going to get a home playoff game. So, I will always believe in the Titans because I believe in Mike Vrabel.
Are the AFC South and the NFC South the worst two divisions in football? Is the South region of the NFL the worst region in the NFL?
They might be. And listen, you could make a very compelling argument that you take one team away from the AFC West and that division sucks.
Yeah.
But that one team is so incredibly good that it makes it hard to say that. Obviously, we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, and
Yeah.
we'll get into their huge game with the Bengals a little bit later. But yeah, like the South divisions are terrible. They are not good at all. There's not a single team in the NFC South with a winning record. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mhm.
The Fighting Jeff Saturdays have come up short in a couple of games. Some of that, that the fact that they didn't use the timeouts was a problem for me on Monday night. The previous week, if Matt Ryan had not taken a 75-yard sack after a first and goal, they might have won that game against the Eagles, which creates some of the problems that the Colts have with their quarterback at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, the AFC South is not. Although I gotta say, like the Texans don't win a lot, but they're in almost every game. They got behind big to the Dolphins, and then they made a game of it. Like I give Lovie Smith and company all the credit in the world. Then there's the Jags who had that nice comeback win over the Baltimore Ravens, which we'll also get to in a second.
Yeah.
I think the NFC South, in terms of one-loss record, is far worse than the AFC South. I think there actually might be some decent teams in the AFC South. I'm not sure if there's a decent team in the NFC South.
Yeah, the teams in the AFC South feel like a year or two away from being really competitive. The NFC South feels like a dumpster fire, right? Without salvation right now.
It is.
But you did mention one of those teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, with an upset victory over the Baltimore Ravens, and that's the next team I want to ask you about. Following that loss, Trey, do you still believe in the Baltimore Ravens? Do you have doubts, or are we in a situation because of that loss we need more information?
I have doubts about the Baltimore Ravens. They already had their win at home against the Bengals on the Sunday night. I can't remember what week it was. 19-17 2-point win. But let's just talk for a second about what we've seen from the Ravens. They blew a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Miami Dolphins. They blew a 17-point first half lead against the Buffalo Bills. And they blew a 9-point fourth quarter lead against the Jacksonville Jaguars this past Sunday. You need to win. Like when you're up by that, you need to close. You need to step on somebody's throat and say, F it, this game is ours. They do not have that, which is really weird. And we've talked about this before on the show because they have the ultimate closer in the league in Justin Tucker. He almost made that 67-yarder, like that would have won the game. Like people actually expect, oh, of course Justin Tucker's making the 67-yard field goal. Why wouldn't he make a 67-yard field goal? So they need to find a way to step on somebody's throat. And if we're being honest about it, if we're really being honest about it, Lamar Jackson hasn't played well for a while. Yeah. He's played okay, but he hasn't played top tier quarterback, take my team where they need to be. Josh Allen against the Lions, Patrick Mahomes against the Chargers, Patrick Mahomes against anybody, where guys, it's on me. I'm taking us home. I'm delivering us to the promised land. It's what we're going to do. Yeah. And you can obviously make the case, well, they did get that score. And then it was up on the defense. And that's absolutely fair and absolutely accurate. But in some of those other games, close the deal. Like in that, we talked about that game against the Bills in
Yep.
October, right? They went for it on fourth down. They threw an interception in the red zone. Well, at least a field goal probably takes care of that game for you. It was the
Yeah.
worst case scenario. They went for it on fourth down. Not only did they not get the points, not only did they not back up the Bills, but because he threw an interception in the end zone, it came out to the 20-yard line. So it was the trifecta of disaster. We've seen too much of that from the Ravens and Lamar Jackson this year. So I do have some doubts about what Baltimore's actual potential is in 2022.
Yeah, and the more those doubts creep up for the Ravens themselves, the more that begins to shift into doubt about Lamar Jackson, not as a player, not as a primetime superstar athletic freak that you want to watch every Sunday, but as a guy who can lead your franchise. I mean, look, what are you doing after the game with some of the tweets that you're putting out there, responding to random strangers, right? It's part of that. A lot of it just goes into that picture. So we'll see what happens with him. There's another team. All right, in the AFC that we've also spoken about, that we noticed that Patrick Mahomes being able to lead his team against in dramatic fashion. That's the Los Angeles Chargers, Trey. Again, a team that had high expectations coming in, reloaded that defense specifically to stop Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So far at this point in the season, do you believe in them as a playoff contender? Do we have doubts? Do we still need more?
I'm going to need to see more, and I'm leaning towards doubts because at the end of the day, when all is said and done, the Chargers are at 6-5, but they've got to find a way to make it into the postseason, right? We saw what happened a year ago when we had the situation where they had the winner get in game against the Raiders week 18. And then, of course, it was do we play for the tie, all that kind of stuff. Right now, if you're looking at the Chargers, they're the 9 seed because if we stack this up, the Chiefs are at 1, the Dolphins are at 2, the Titans are at 3, the Ravens are at 4, and then the Bills are 5, the Bengals are 6, the Jets are 7, the Patriots are 8, the Chargers are 9. Justin Herbert is a transformational talent. Like, he's a generational talent. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the coaching staff and everybody else has got to find a way to get that guy into the playoffs. And I'm not sure if I'm going to see it this year. I'm just not sure. They got a huge game coming up this week against the Raiders. The Raiders are riding into a 2-game walk-off winning streak in overtime, taking care of business not only in Denver with a Devontae Adams walk-off score, but a Josh Jacobs walk-off score in Seattle, which means the Raiders are feeling as good as they possibly can about themselves, considering the season they've had. So, if you want me to believe, then find a way to take care of business and put yourself in a position where you might be able to squeak in as a 7 seed. Because Brandon Staley is universally loved by his players and a lot of people in that organization. But at the end of the day, the results have not been what people want them to be over 2 seasons, or 1 season rather.
Yeah.
And this season, you got to find a way to get in. I get it, the injuries. I understand that. They've been if the Chargers didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck. I understand all of that. But no one cares. No one cares. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to find a way to get it done. And until they do it, I spent 6 years before I went to ESPN. I spent 6 years in St. Louis and Missouri working for a local there. And Missouri's the show me state. Show me you can do it, and then I'll believe it. Until then, I'm withholding judgment.
Yeah, it feels like, Trey, that this year more than any since he's become the head coach, Brandon Staley's come under a lot of criticism for not just wins and losses, but even basic game management and things that we go, kind of scratching your head. If you recall, and you'll remember last year, you and I sat down with one of your friends, Cynthia Freeland,
Sure.
Great friend of the show and the Pro Football Network. And he was the basis for our conversation on analytics, right? Like that was like the thing that was the basis of the conversation there. And now we're talking about, like, is he a good enough coach to get this team to the playoffs? One thing I wanted to add before we move on to the final team we're going to talk about is that Caesars doesn't particularly love their chances to make the playoffs either, right? Caesars Sportsbook, they're still favored, if you will, to make the playoffs, but it's only minus 150, right? Yeah. I think now you have a better chance. The value is to say that they're not going to make the playoffs. And as you just said, you're leaning towards doubt. The question is, that's where they have to get to. They have to get to the playoffs, and it's about whether or not you like their chances. You can go make that bet over at Caesar Sportsbook. And when you do, make sure you use code PFNCZR. That'll be a risk-free bet for you if it's your first bet ever. over at Caesar Sportsbook, where Mr. Trey Wingo, I believe you are the chief trends officer.
That's what they tell me.
That's what they tell you. So make sure you go and place that bet through Caesar Sportsbook. Right now, it's plus 130 if you don't believe the Chargers are going to make the playoffs, and minus 150 if you believe they're due. If you believe they will. So we'll see how that goes. We got one more team to talk about in our Time to Learn segment. And then we have the great Arif Hassan. He's in studio, ready to join us to talk about a very interesting topic. Before we get there, Trey, let's talk about the Bucs. All right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We said a couple weeks ago that they're probably going to make the playoffs because their division is just atrocious. But that's really just the surface level. Do you believe in them at all? Do we have? I mean, it sounds like we have pretty good doubts. Talk to me about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Not really. I mean, how long have we been saying, "Oh, the Bucs will separate themselves. The Bucs will separate themselves. The Bucs will separate themselves from everybody in the NFC South." Well, to quote Judge Schmales from Caddyshack, "Well, we're waiting." I mean, like, when are they going to do it? Like, when are we going to see this magical transformation of what we're supposed to believe the Bucs are going to be? They have real problems that might not be fixable. Mike Evans is not consistently being the game breaker that they need him to be. Some of that is on Mike. Some of that's on Tom Brady. Some of that's on everything else. His targets and receptions have been way down, even though he got to 10,000 receiving yards this past week. They lose in overtime to Cleveland. Their game management, I did not understand what Todd Bowles was doing in the fourth quarter or in overtime. He was basically managing against a Tom Brady interception. Tom Brady does never throw interceptions in the fourth quarter or overtime. And look at his interceptions this year. They're extremely low. I didn't understand any of that. They have massive issues up front. We've talked about this since the beginning of the season. I had so many people that were fans of the Bucs say, "Oh, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We get this guy." Well, you're not. You're not fine. The offensive line is not good. It's not good. And now we're dealing with Wirfs out for a while. So the offensive line has been a problem. The running game has been sort of in and out, non-existent. Rashad White, Leonard Fournette, 1 week, somebody's good, somebody's not good. They just have been a very bad football team. And in a division where they're 5-6, and the Falcons are 5-7, and the Saints and the Panthers are 4-8, I can't say with any great certainty that I feel good about any of those teams. I don't feel any better about. I think the only reason we feel better about the Bucs is because who their quarterback is. It's Tom Brady. But the results are what the results are. The Carolina Panthers, believe it or not, might be the team that has the best opportunity to win that division. Why do I say that? They have 4 wins. 3 of them have come inside the division. They're 3-0 inside the NFC South, including an absolute beatdown of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few weeks ago in Carolina. This is a Panthers team that fired their coach, that traded away their best player, and has used 4,317 quarterbacks this year. Sam Darnold scored on Sunday in a fire drill, stop, drop, and roll as he got into the end zone after bobbling a snap. I don't feel like there's any reason to believe that miraculously all the Bucs' problems are going to be cured. They might be. It's a possibility. But I'm not ruling out anything else. And we got a huge game for them, coming up on Monday night. It's the 3rd straight year, by the way, that the Bucs and Saints are going to meet in a primetime game at home in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's outscored 47-3 in their last 2 home games they played in primetime against the New Orleans Saints. And here's a crazy number, right? We all think of Tom Brady as this, sort of non-human divinity, right? In the way who he is and the way he plays quarterback. You know what his record is his last 14 regular season primetime games?
What's that?
He's 6-8. You know what they are against the spread? 2-12.
2-12.
In their last 4, 2-12. Now, to be fair, the other side of that is Andy Dalton. And if we're talking about primetime game struggles, Andy Dalton would say to Tom Brady, "Hold my beer." He has lost and failed hold my 12-pack. He has lost and failed to cover 7 straight primetime games. Not that that's important. It just ties for the longest such futility streak since the AFL-NFL merger of 1970. So
that's not that long.
What we have here on Monday night are 2 teams that cannot get out of their own way when it comes to trying to figure out how to win a primetime game. And you just don't think about that when you think of Tom Brady. But the reality is, like I said, in his last 14 regular season primetime games, they're a less than sterling 6-8 and 2-12 against the spread.
Yeah. Little known fact, the very first article I ever wrote for Pro Football Network 3 years ago was titled "Deconstructing the Mythology of Tom Brady."
Well, now
I know.
right.
I'm sorry.
I
All right.
mean, like he
Anytime
does
I can
have
bring that up.
7 rings. He has every record imaginable
I
in
knew
the
you were going to do that.
in the
I
history of
knew
the
it.
NFL. It's just recently he's struggled
He's
in
struggling.
primetime games, and the team
Yeah.
has struggled.
Yeah. All right. That's right. Wins are not a QB stat.
Mythology.
Okay. We have Arif
I
Hassan
love
waiting
you.
in studio. I know you do. I love you too. Before we bring him in, Trey, I want to just go back real quick. I've been doing a lot of bets on Caesars. I've been right. I got an article coming out tonight. I hope you all tomorrow morning for Thursday Night Football, Bills Patriots, using my sports betting model to predict
Big game, by the way. Really big game. You know what the
Big game.
Bills' record is in the AFC East this year?
What's that?
0-2.
Yeah.
They haven't won a division game.
Yep.
They
And
haven't won a division game.
Bill Belichick has had about 13 weeks of game film now to prepare for Josh Allen and the Bills. We'll see what happens. Check out my article and track my bets on Pickett. You can track everything that I'm doing on Pickett, and you can find Trey Wingo's Caesars trends and other things for Caesar Sports on Pickett as well by following him. His link to follow him is in the comments. Make sure you go check that out at Pickett Sports. Follow him. You'll see some of the stuff that he's got going on for Caesar Sports and some of the clips here from our show. Everything done at Pickett. You could track there, engage with us, talk with the betting community, see what the popular consensus on certain bets are. And the best part about it, completely free. Download it for free, engage for free, and we'll even throw you a chance to win $100 just for downloading and using the tracking link in the comments. Takes you right to Trey Wingo. So check that out. All right. Now, without further ado, let's bring in my good buddy Arif Hassan of Pro Football Network, who has written a phenomenal. Wow, Brian Mahaffey, by the way, our producer. What a beautiful transition to that screen. I know how hard that was. That was really good.
Yeah.
But Arif, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be back. It's been, unfortunately, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Arif, I like the studio setup there. You got the sound deadening on the wall. You've got a giant microphone. That's solid.
I told you, Trey, that he does have. Don't let his first appearance fool you. He's got.
Yeah. No, I was abroad on that first appearance. I couldn't bring my setup
here,
with
so
me.
I understand.
Yeah.
Arif, you wrote a great article following the Packers-Eagles game and the way that Jordan Love had come in relief of an injured Aaron Rodgers and kind of what he showcased. And you raised the question, given the Packers record, given the ticking clock on Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, guys, should he be the starter of the Green Bay Packers moving forward, kind of where they stand now? Arif, you want to kind of give us a little bit of what led to you writing an article with that as the main topic?
Yeah, I think that when you're dealing with, an elite quarterback with the history that he has, just like the Tom Brady discussion you just had, it's really difficult to have this conversation without falling into kind of like holding on to the past, holding on to, the ability to turn things around. What's made it even more complicated, of course, is how Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have answered these questions in the past, 2013, 2015. They've done pretty good things turning things around. But right now, Aaron Rodgers is playing injured, 2 injuries, the thumb and the oblique, or I think it's listed as a rib injury. During his injury, so he got injured late in week 5 against the Giants. In the following weeks, the Packers are 1-6. He is ranked 20th in adjusted net yards per attempt, about the same in expected points. He has not been playing very well as a passer. That may be his fault. That may be someone else's fault. It could be the receivers. Certainly, he is willing to blame the players around him and implicitly blame the coaches by saying, these players should be benched for making mental errors. And he's not really taking responsibility for what could be his role. We've seen him throw errant passes. He has thrown more picks than we're used to seeing from him. He has thrown short of the mark. He has thrown wide of the mark. It has been really difficult to watch someone like him do what he can do, especially because sometimes he'll pepper in some of the best throws you've ever seen. We even saw that last week against the Eagles. It is tough, but given the fact that they were 1-6 while he was the quarterback, I understand why he wanted to push through. I mean, quarterbacks with his mentality always push through, right? They always try. It's how you get to become a Hall of Fame level quarterback. But after game 3 or 4, first, he should have just not aired the dirty laundry about, what he felt about his teammates. But second, he should have taken a serious look at what he can do best for the team around him, right? He has an obligation to the 52 players that are also on the team, as well as the coaching staff, and to his own contract, right? And in order to do that, he needed to set up the team for either the best chances to win right now, which right now are kind of moot, they're almost mathematically eliminated, or the best chance to set up for the future, because these teammates are going to be here longer than he is, right?
Mm.
And the best way to do that is to evaluate what you have in Jordan Love. In fact, Jordan Love might be a better quarterback right now because of the injuries that Aaron Rodgers has. Might be a better quarterback right now for the Packers than Aaron Rodgers, especially because they want to be such a run-heavy team, and he can add such an exciting element to that. So the thesis of the article was basically that Rodgers has been I shouldn't say uncommonly selfish, but has been too focused on himself and what he can do and not what is best for the team.
Trey, where,
Yeah.
where are you standing on that? Especially, we saw what Jordan Love came in. He sparked the offense for sure when he came in on Sunday, but that we see that a lot when quarterbacks went for relief. Where are you at on this Aaron Rodgers thing? Because you've been following Aaron Rodgers closely, as we all have, but you in particular for years.
Yeah, let's take it one step further. And I think Arif laid out a lot of really interesting things in that article. What's the Packers' responsibility? Forget Aaron Rodgers' responsibility. What's the Packers' responsibility as an organization to those other 52 players? What's the Packers' responsibility as an organization to the fan base? What's the Packers' responsibility to the future of this franchise? They have, because he had the hammer and he could swing it, they have sort of deferred to Aaron Rodgers over the organization. Well, that's gone. Those days are done. Like Herb Brooks in Miracle, it's over. Okay, those days are done. If we're being honest about it, the best thing the Packers as an organization can do is find out whether or not Jordan Love is worthy of what they did for him in the 2020 draft, which is to say move up in the first round to get him when you had Aaron Rodgers still on your roster. It was a very curious decision at the draft in 2020, and it obviously had a lot of repercussions, especially with Aaron.
Yeah.
But now, to Arif's point, he has a broken thumb. He has a either rib or oblique or abdominal injury. He thought he might have had a punctured lung. He went on the Pat McAfee show and said, "Hey, I got good news. I can play." Is that good news? Is it? I mean, I guess it is if you're playing the Bears. He's 24-5 against them. He's won 7 straight against the Bears. In that 7-game winning streak, he's thrown 18 touchdowns and no interceptions. But at the end of the day, if the Packers are honest with themselves, and I'm not sure if they want to be, they need to find out what they have in Jordan Love. And when Aaron a few years ago said RELAX, relax, right? Here's a new 5-letter word, TOAST, toast. That's what the Packers are this year. They're not making the postseason. It's not happening, okay?
Yeah.
So they need to know, is Jordan Love going to be the person and the quarterback we thought he was going to be when we moved up to draft him, or isn't he? And this is the absolute perfect time for them to find that out. And it's going to take someone with big ones to stand up and say, hey, I think it's great that you want to play, Aaron Rodgers. And I think it's phenomenal that you got good news. But we need to find out where we're going when you're not here. And we need to play Jordan Love to find out the answer to that question.
Arif, what is it that you think prevents Matt LaFleur from being that guy with big one?
Well, I mean, it's not Matt LaFleur. I mean, Arif will tell you it goes way beyond Matt, right?
Well, who is it? Where's the issue?
Mark Murphy, Brian Gutekunst, the front office and the team president.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It goes to the fact that Aaron Rodgers is very aware, probably more than most quarterbacks, probably more than most elite quarterbacks, how important politics is to these sorts of decisions and how the relationships that you build help you in times like these and your ability to have a say in what's happening in the organization. I mean, that's a big part of it. Now, obviously, if Matt LaFleur makes a decision, right, for that game, for that decision will be his, he'll be able to make it. What happens afterwards? Who knows, right? And so he needs the support of the organization behind him to be able to make that decision. And who was it? Ben McAdoo that benched Eli Manning?
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
I mean, technically it was, but it wasn't.
Right.
If you really believe that Ben McAdoo was like, hey, you have the longest active starting streak in the NFL, and I'm going to bench you for Geno Smith, not current Geno Smith.
Not this Geno Smith.
Then Geno Smith. Yeah. Okay. If you don't think everybody in the Giants organization didn't say, yeah, go ahead with that, you're smoking or you're taking ayahuasca with Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Like there's no way Ben frickin' McAdoo did that on his own. He had the blessings of everybody else in that organization.
And then, here's the problem. When that didn't go right, everybody in the organization pretended that he did not have those blessings.
Correct. Oh, I don't know. He did that on his own. He went rogue, man.
Crazy.
He went rogue.
You know what happened? He started slicking his hair back. We couldn't control him anymore.
Yeah, right. You know what happened when Brad Childress actually did something on his own and cut a not the Randy Moss that set records with the Vikings, but the second time around Randy Moss? Ziggy Will fired him right away.
Yeah.
You can't just do that. You can't do that with players that have that history with your organization. You need to have everybody behind you. But, that organization has a vested interest in making sure, like you said, they figure out what they have in Jordan Love. And it's not just, hey, do we have a quarterback? Do we need to make a first-round pick again if this quarterback is... They could trade Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love at the end of the season. The only way they can do that is if they know, and maybe the rest of the league knows, how good Jordan Love is, because Jordan Love looks like a franchise quality quarterback. They could trade him for a first round.
Well, let me jump in here for a second. I want to ask a question about this, right?
Hold on real quick. That's a great point. Like what Arif just said is an amazing point, because not only does it benefit the Packers in terms of whether or not he can play, it benefits their ability to make that pick work for them if he's not going to play for them.
Yeah. And it could help out Aaron Rodgers, right? Like that's the thing. Is if you clear out was it going to be like $16 million in cap space or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm going to say here, guys, because Aaron Rodgers just signed a massive contract with massive loads of guaranteed money. Where does that factor into all of this?
I mean, it's huge, right? Like if you want to say, hey, Aaron, we know that you want the support of the organization. We know that you've been frustrated with the team that you have around you. We understand that. There is a cap space problem. One way we could relieve this cap space problem is to trade away Jordan Love. Only way we can do that is if we play him. And that frees up enough cap space for us to be able to say, hey, we can bring in a receiver. Hey, we've got another first-round pick. We can bring in another offensive lineman. Hey, we've got another second-round pick. We can bring in another receiver, right? You can tell Aaron Rodgers this. Or you could say, hey, Aaron, you want to go to one of the best teams in the country that does not have a quarterback? You want to go to the same offensive system? Hey, the Jets are calling. You can do either and set Rodgers up to be in the situation that he might want to be in, even if in the short term this is kind of a hit to his ego and his pride. And you could just say, hey, we would love to start Aaron Rodgers, but the rib injury and the finger injury right now, it's too much. You all heard the news. He needs surgery on that thumb. Let's get that started right away so he can be ready for next year. Right.
Yeah.
So
they have the out.
Yeah.
They have the out. It's right there for them. Someone just has to step up and take it.
Yeah. Exactly. So, either you work out something with whatever team that might want to trade for Aaron Rodgers, figure out what the cap situation is going to be, how much that team is going to take onto the cap, restart, whatever, right? Or you trade Jordan Love. Either of those could work out really well for the Packers, but the only way you can do that is to play Jordan Love and to give them enough of a save. Because right now he has 18 pass attempts. Good pass attempts. He's averaging, 10 yards an attempt? Great. 18 pass attempts, right?
Not enough.
Yeah, you basically want 150.
So basically what we're saying is that someone's got to get traded, and the only way that comes to a resolution is if Jordan Love plays, right? I mean, that's really what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, you could, in theory, trade Jordan Love without playing him, but you're not going to get the same amount. You're absolutely not.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trey.
It's the benefit of the organization. Again, the organization needs to come first at this point. They went down the river with Aaron Rodgers when they gave him all the money.
Yep.
And which means Devontae Adams wasn't going to be there. So they decided we're on this journey with you, Aaron, for 2022 with the contract that we signed you to. At some point, they need to be responsible for everybody else in that organization. Because the worst case scenario is Rodgers limps through the end of the regular season, has some good throws, has some bad throws, has some good games, has some bad games. And then the Packers win 3 games and they finished 7-10. And now, does Aaron Rodgers want to come back to an organization that is bereft of talent, that doesn't have Devontae Adams? And does he want to go somewhere else? And now you can't officially evaluate Jordan Love because you didn't play him. Like it's a mess. Everything that's beneficial for everybody in this scenario is to play Jordan Love.
And the decision on that 5th-year option is coming soon. Now that's not
Thank you.
critical, right? You could always franchise him, right? But you don't want to be there, right?
You don't want to go down the Kirk Cousins road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also it's always more, right? It's always the 5th-year option decision is always more than the amount of money that you're giving. It's a sign of commitment and it's a sign of confidence in a player, right? So they need to make that decision on the 5th-year option. If they don't make that decision, if they say, "Hey, we haven't seen you play, we're gonna defer on this decision, and then we're gonna franchise you," I mean, that just you're batting 0 for 2 on relationships with your quarterbacks, right?
Correct.
Like, you start this one off on the right foot, I think.
Yeah.
Technically 0 for 3 because I'm sure Brett Favre wasn't thrilled when they drafted Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. This is not a new problem. And by the way, Olivier23 watching us on Twitch, ask, can you guys let us know when question time is? You can get your questions in now. We'll answer them following our quarterback matchup conversation towards the end there. Arif, so great to have you back. Very excited to see what we're going to talk about next week based on all the amazing things you write over at ProFootballNetwork.com. You can follow Arif on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL, at Arif Hassan NFL over on the Twitter app, assuming Twitter exists this time next week. We'll see. Arif, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
All right. Love when Arif joins us, Trey. It was a great conversation.
It was awesome. Like that was a really good discussion and a really good article he put out there.
Yeah, he's got some good thought-provoking things out there. But let's and Olivier23 promptly got his question in there. We'll talk about that towards the end here. Let's make our way to our underdog fantasy Super Smash quarterback matchup of the week. We got 2 of them this week. This one is a battle of the proteges, I think. Let's see what we got. All right, battle of the proteges, because both of these quarterbacks have found their thriving abilities in the Kyle Shanahan offense. Tua now with Mike McDaniel, Jimmy G continuing to be with Kyle Shanahan and keeping the 49ers in contention. Big matchup this week for both teams, Trey. How do you see it?
Well, what's the old boxing analogy? Styles make fights.
There you go.
Styles make fights. We have 2 teams that win in completely different styles. Let's just take the 49ers. We are a big, bruising football team. We play physical on the offensive line. We play physical with our front 7. And we have a lot of different ways to attack your offense from a defensive standpoint. And we have a couple of good weapons on offense, and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. And all we want to do is beat you to a pulp and ask our quarterback to not lose the game for us in Jimmy Garoppolo. Then you have the Miami Dolphins. We need our quarterback to make every play for us. And he's done that. The Miami Dolphins have not lost a game in which Tua has started the game and finished the game this year. The only losses they had, the Thursday night game against the Bengals, where he had his 2nd concussion in 4 days and never should have seen the field, and then he had to sit out a couple of games. So you have 2 teams that win in completely different ways. Both are incredibly successful. Both are very good at what they do. And we're going to find out this Sunday whether one style is better than the other. And lost in all of the quarterback situations, and it's the protege against the teacher and Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan. The other thing that is not talked about enough is the Miami defense. The Miami defense is great at home. They're great at home. But they are so pedestrian on the road, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the splits. Go look at the numbers between the way the Miami Dolphins defense plays when they play in Fort Lauderdale, and look at the numbers when they play away It is a completely different unit. Like, it's not even remotely close. So that's the thing that I'm curious about more than anything else, because, this is one of those. Mike McDaniel knows everything that the 49ers are going to try and do to them. And Kyle Shanahan knows everything that Mike McDaniel wants to do to them.
Yep.
So that sort of washes it out. The thing for me that I'm most interested in this contest is, will the Dolphins defense be good? Because they're great at home and they are exceedingly average when they have to go on the road.
Yep. And one of the areas that they've struggled the most in is making tackles. And that's a thing you cannot do.
Is that important for a defense? I'm not sure.
You know what? I think so, unless it's the quarterback. Then you just want to lightly touch him. But yes, it definitely is a situation. And to your point, in terms of styles, when you go to underdog fantasy and you play their pick'em game, again, that's higher or lower on certain stats for different players, and you put those players together, have a chance to win 20 times, your money on that. For Tua, Trey, they have the higher or lower set at 280.5 passing yards. Jimmy G is all the way down to 243.5. So that
does he get to 200? Right.
That's the question, right?
Right. I mean, in a perfect scenario, now the Elijah Mitchell injury hurts them.
Yeah.
A little bit. But in a perfect scenario, like, they went to a Super Bowl where he threw 8 passes in that NFC Championship game? Was it 8 or 13? I can't remember.
It was 8.
It was 8 passes. He threw the ball 8 times.
Yeah.
Okay. If Tua doesn't throw the ball 8 times in a quarter, the Dolphins have no chance of winning.
On a drive sometimes.
Right. 8. Yeah. I mean, like, that's the beauty of it. Styles make fights, and that's what's going to make this so much fun. And by the way, this is the start. Let me run this up real quick. This is the start of a brutal schedule for the Miami Dolphins. Let's bring this up. Okay. They start Sunday in San Francisco. Then they stay in California to play the Chargers. Good Chargers, bad Chargers, who knows? Then they go to Buffalo. Then they're home for Green Bay, and they finish up at New England and against the Jets. So for everything that's gone right for everybody in the AFC, whether it's the Chiefs, whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Dolphins, whether it's the Ravens, whether it's the Bengals, it's all coming out in the wash over these final 6 weeks. And we'll get into the other quarterback matchup in a second, but I think this is a good time to bring this up, because when you play your toughest opponents matters, right?
Yeah.
So we had some people do the research. Here's the strength of schedule left for all the top seeds in the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs, the number 1 seed as we speak, even though they have a very tough game we'll get into in a second in Cincinnati, they have the easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. Their team, the rest of the teams they'll play, are combined 373 winning percentage. The Baltimore Ravens have the second easiest schedule in the NFL, a 40.403 winning percentage, everybody. The LA Chargers, 44% winning percentage, the rest of their schedule, 7th easiest schedule. Here's where it gets interesting. The Tennessee Titans, who are going to win that division, the AFC South, just a matter of what the number is, they have the 15th toughest schedule. And here's where it gets fun. The Bills' schedule, 552 winning percentage, 10th toughest. The Dolphins' schedule, 567 winning percentage the rest of the way, 8th toughest. The Patriots, 582 winning percentage, the 6th toughest. And here's where it gets fascinating. The Bengals and the Jets, their remaining schedule, 591 winning percentage, tied for the 4th toughest schedule in football in the rest of the way. So all these things that we've talked about heading into the final third of the season, because week 13 through 18, the final 6 games of the regular season, it all in the AFC and in the NFC in some degree as well, because the NFC East is going to cannibalize each other these last few weeks. It all comes down to how you finish. And that's what I think is most fascinating. So the Miami Dolphins, the meat of their schedule starts now. It starts now.
Yep. And for what it's worth, guys, with underdog, I'm taking Tua on this difficult schedule, the best defense in the NFL and the toughest defense on his schedule. I'm taking him to take the higher on those passing yards, believe it or not. And Jimmy G, like Trey said, forget 243.5, which is what underdog has it set at. We'd be surprised if he gets to 200.
They'd be happy if he threw 180.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the lower on that. And again, that's on Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you enter promo code PFN when you download the Underdog Fantasy app to play that. But not just yet, because we got one more for you, though. You might want to add that to your lineup here for Underdog Fantasy, because we got one more Super Smash QB matchup. Let's get it, Ryan. Now, this, Trey, this is the marquee matchup of the week. All offseason, all beginning of the season, we talked a lot about the Chiefs and Bills, Mahomes and Allen. But, Trey, going back to last season, this is the rivalry in the AFC. And the Bengals are not so far behind the Bills or any other team that they're not going to make this a tough game for the Chiefs, in your opinion. Is that correct?
Yeah. Look, here's the way I sort of preface the Cincinnati Bengals. And we talked about this a little last week. In quiet moments in Miami and in Kansas City and in Buffalo, I think the team that really concerns people is the Cincinnati Bengals. They can win a lot of different ways. They can light it up through the air. It looks like Jamar Chase is going to play on Sunday with the three receivers they have. With Joe Mixon and Shamaze Perine, they have a two-headed monster attack. And it looks like Mixon's going to play Sunday when the Chiefs come to the jungle. And then their defense is much better than people think. And the offensive line has gotten a lot better. I just don't know if the Bengals are actually making the playoffs. Like, if they make the playoffs, no one wants to play them. Let's go through their schedule real quick. Okay, I said it was the fourth toughest. Here's their schedule down the way. Chiefs, 9-2, best record in the AFC. Then they get Cleveland, second game back with Deshaun Watson. Then they go to Tampa to take on the Bucs. Then they go to New England to take on the Patriots. Then they have Buffalo, and then they finish up with the Ravens at the Jungle week 18. That game, week 18, might be not only for the division crown between Baltimore and Cincinnati, but it might be a situation where win and you need to get in to the postseason. And if you don't win, you might not make the postseason, depending on what the Chargers do. And that's what I think is fascinating about the Cincinnati Bengals. Their best is as good or better than anybody else's. But will it be enough considering the schedule they have to play?
Yeah.
And this will be the third meeting over the last two seasons between these two teams with their quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Bengals are 2-0. Week 17 last year and the AFC Championship game. And in each of those games, the Chiefs had 14-point first half leads. They led by 11 at the break in each one of those games and failed to win because they were held to 3 points in the second half of each of those games, and the Bengals went on to win by 3. The Bengals come into this one hot. They've won 3 in a row. They have won and covered their last 5 games in the months of November and December. But you know what the Chiefs think about that? That's adorable because the Chiefs have won 26 straight games in the months of November and December. In case you're wondering, yeah, that's the longest streak in NFL history over that time frame. It's not even close, by the widest of possible margins. Then you factor in this one. No team and no quarterback has ever beaten Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs 3 straight times. That's why the Chiefs are a 2-point road favorite going into this game in Cincinnati, which is really a 5-point swing because you get 3 points for home field advantage, right? So nothing would surprise me in this game. I think at some point the law of averages catches up and the Chiefs find a way to win. But if the Bengals won this game, by the way, if the Chiefs win this game, I don't think there's any way they don't get home field advantage.
Yeah.
They'll be 10-2. The last toughest game on their schedule is going to be the Seahawks, although the Seahawks may be falling apart a little bit right now. And, you know, in push comes to shove, are you taking Geno Smith or are you taking Patrick Mahomes? I think I'm taking Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And just another thing about Mahomes real quick. He's thrown for 300 yards in 6 straight games. If he throws for 300 against the Bengals, which I fully expect him to do, it would be 7 straight games. And then he would be the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to have 2 different 7-game, 300-yard passing game streaks in NFL history. He threw for 8 straight in the year he won the MVP in 2018. And only 2 other quarterbacks, Drew Brees and Andrew Luck, have ever had 1 7-game streak. If he gets it on Sunday, it'll be his second 7-game, 300 passing yard streak of his career. And his career is just getting started.
Yeah, I will tell you, Trey, there's a piece I'm not going to write for Pro Football Network, and it's going to be called Deconstructing the Mythology of Patrick Mahomes, because there is no mythology here.
People just need to embrace it, man. Like,
yeah, he is the real deal.
Look, like, what other quarterback loses Tyreek Hill and has a 400-yard passing lead on every other quarterback in the NFL? Could you name half the receivers he's throwing to? He's thrown touchdown passes to 12 different people this year.
Yeah.
12 different people he's thrown a touchdown pass to in the NFL this year. No one else has done that. I think that they're going to be a little banged up again at wide receiver, but it doesn't matter. Like
Didn't matter last week.
Yeah, it didn't matter last week. Sky Moore, by the way, 2 straight weeks he's had 5 receptions and at least 7 targets, or 8 targets rather. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. He just shouldn't be returning punts anymore.
I've asked Coach Reed to let me line up at a wide receiver just so I can get in on the action. I think Patrick Mahomes could turn me into a 100-yard guy.
He would probably find you at least once.
I think so. So, but we'll see. But look, to your point about these 300-yard passing games for Patrick Mahomes, the folks over at Underdog Fantasy see it similarly. In fact, they fully expect him to throw for at least 300. They've set the higher or lower tray at 345.5 passing yards. In fact, they've also included rushing yards into that total. And we know Patrick Mahomes is good for a scramble or two every week.
That's interesting, right? Because let me just take a look at something here real quick. Patrick Mahomes for the season. Let's take a look at his stats here for a second. For the season, Patrick Mahomes is averaging in 2022. He's averaging, where I didn't get this. Must drive me crazy. Sorry, I apologize here. Keep talking for a second, and I'll.
This is what we call vamping in the biz.
Yeah. No, it's 11 games, 3,585 divided by 11. Let's do that. Hold on.
Yeah, you do that. Let me also just give you real quick Joe Burrow's.
Give him a read, brother.
So his higher lower is 288.5 passing yards for Joe Burrow. And you add 2 of those. We talked about 2 in Jimmy. You get your 4 players in your lineup there. That'll get you 10x your money if all 4 do what you think they're going to do. And you add a 5th player in there, you get up to 20x. That's over at Underdog Fantasy. Use code PFN. And when you download the app, no one's giving you numbers the way we're giving you numbers here. Trey is literally doing calculus right now as we speak.
He's averaging for the season 326 passing yards per game. But I think it's even crazier than that. I want to go for his career. Yeah. His career number is absolutely insane. I think he's the only quarterback in the history of the NFL to average more than 300 yards passing for his career. Let's see. 22,576.
Wasn't joking about the calculus. That's
he's averaging 305 yards a game in his career. Like a 300-yard passing game. It's funny. Like if I don't know how much you listen to Kevin Burkhalter and Greg Olson calling the game last week. The Rams are doing a really good job with Patrick Mahomes. And he threw for 340 yards.
Yeah.
They bogged him down in the red zone, and Patrick made a ridiculous interception in the red zone where he could have walked in for a touchdown there.
And he knew it. The second he let that ball go, he was pissed off.
He had 3 yards to go, just stroll into the end zone, and it's an easy touchdown. And he wanted to get another one to Kelsey. By the way, that's the other thing. Kelsey is in his 11th season. He's better now than he's ever been. He has more touchdowns and games played this year.
Yeah, it's wild. And the absence of Tyreek Hill, that Patrick's going to be looking for him, and they still can't get it done. And by the way, Underdog got his receiving yard total at 81.5 for Travis Kelce, higher or lower, 81.5 yards. Maybe he's the 5th player that you folks want to put into your Underdog lineup to get your payout up to 20x if you hit on all of those. So Mahomes, Burrow, our first QB matchup, Tua and Jimmy. Throw Travis Kelce in there and see what comes out. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy Super Smash QB matchup of the week here at Pro Football Network. Football Insiders. Download the app. Can
I just say one other thing about Mahomes here, which is fascinating if you look at the numbers?
You usually don't want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. So
I know, but I mean, his first year he played 1 game and he completed 63% of his passes. All right, 1 game. Right. All right, so as a starter, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22. I find this fascinating. In 2018, he completed 66% of his passes. In 2019, he completed 65.9% of his passes. In 2020, he completed 66.3% of his passes. In 2021, he completed 66.3% of his passes. And right now in 2022, he's completing 66.1% of his passes.
Yeah.
That is so ridiculously consistent. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody be on the number, that number. Like, it's just know that going in, he's going to complete 2/3 of his passes in every game. Every game he plays, he's going to complete 2/3 of his passes. That's the standard.
He is 1 of 1 as they say, Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Trey, before we get out of here, we do got 2 questions from our incredible audience. I mentioned before our guy B Olivier 23 over on Twitch wants to know how and will my Lions make the playoffs. So will they make the playoffs, Trey? And if they do, how is it that they're going to get there?
How? No chance. Will? Absolutely not.
Okay.
The Lions are 4-7.
Like, all right, oh no, you're not.
No, I'm not. I'm saying there's no chance.
Yeah.
Look, well, let's just for fun here. We'll do this, right? Well, I'm in the AFC. Let's go to the NFC. Right now, the Lions are in the 10 spot, which means you're going to have to leapfrog. Philadelphia's at 1, Vikings are at 2, 49ers are at 3, Bucks are at 4, Cowboys are at 5, Giants are at 6, and the Commanders are at 7. Seahawks are at 8, the Falcons are at 9, and the Lions are sitting there in 10. The Packers are at 11. Sure, have stranger things happened? Maybe. Just don't see it. I just don't see it. Look, I do believe that things are improving for the Lions.
Yeah.
I did not like a couple of things in the Thursday game. I hated the use of the timeouts down at the stretch, and I hated on 3rd and 1 running a go route to your 4th best wide receiver. How about get the first down and then take the timeout, save 12 seconds, get the first down, and then you're not panicked to take a rail shot when you didn't need it. You didn't need it. You just needed a yard. You didn't need a touchdown there. You needed a freaking yard. That bothered me. But I do think the Lions are headed in the right direction. And, they get Jameson Williams. He's practicing this week. I don't think he's going to play this Sunday, but I think he's going to play sooner rather than later. And that's, put him opposite Amon-Ra, and then the 2-headed running backs of Jamal Williams and Swift, and you got something there.
Yeah. My model, Trey, had the Lions covering that 9.5-point spread, but I tweeted out during the game, I said, there's 3 things you can't do if you want to upset being a 9.5-point underdog. And you can't have a turnover. You can't give up a safety, and you can't, give up a special teams touchdown. I think the Lions did all 3 of those things. So no shock that they lost, but those are the crucial mistakes that they continue to make that hurt them. That Dan Campbell needs to get figured out as we go along. We got another question here. You mentioned a couple of those NFC East teams, 3 of them in that playoff run here. Who cannibalizes itself first, the AFC East or the NFC Beast? I would say the AFC. Yeah, you see that?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because the Mike White thing changes things in the AFC East. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
He played great. And by the way, he's going up against another Minnesota Vikings defense that isn't really good. I mean, they're not really good.
Yeah.
The Jets are a 3-point dog in that one, but they've won 5 times this season when laying points. But I'm a little. I think that the NFC East might cannibalize itself a little bit first. For example, the Washington Heinekes are going to the MetLife Stadium to play the Giants this week. And they're
just for the
point
record,
favorite.
You can say the Washington Heinekes, but Bucket Brady's is off limits.
Yes.
Okay. No, just
absolutely.
Want to make sure I know the rules.
Because Bucket Brady's is a bastardization of 2 words, and I just took 2 words that were actual words and put them together.
That's fair.
Okay?
It's true. It's fair. Okay.
The only thing worse, if you had said Tampa Bay Bucket Brady's, would have been just terrible. Would have been just terrible.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm not sure the Giants finish 3rd in that division right now. They may finish 4th.
Yeah, you think?
Giants are in real trouble.
They're falling apart.
Okay, they only have one way to win, and that is Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones. Don't mess it up, and pray your defense makes enough tackles.
Yeah.
Okay. Terry McLaurin is really good, and Taylor Heineke has made him a player. They're physical. Washington's physical up front. I think it's more likely that the Giants finish 4th than they finish 2nd in that division.
Yeah. I tweeted out earlier that the Commanders are scoring 40% more points per minute with Heineke as the quarterback compared to when Wentz was the quarterback. And I have them probably winning by a touchdown this Sunday.
By the way, Brett, if he keeps that up, eventually one day the Washington Commanders will honor Taylor Heineke with a wire mannequin.
Oh, man. Yeah, what a disgrace that
it's a shame because the team itself, like the players and the coaches, they're great. The organization is an embarrassment.
They are.
That statue for Sean Taylor was like, oh, crap, my midterm assignment is due tomorrow. Oh, shit, I got to whip something together. It's like they went to Dick's Sporting Goods, got
It's
a mannequin, and
yeah.
took out a Nike jersey and Reebok pants from when and just slapped it together. It
Yep.
was the worst.
It gets
But
to
then
a point,
again, the organization is the
the
worst.
worst.
So
Yeah.
no one should be surprised.
It gets to a point where you think they do it on purpose now. They're just trolling
Oh,
everybody.
Daniel Snyder might. He's
He's that guy. He's that
He
guy.
might just do it on purpose. He's
Yeah.
absolutely. I've told you the vanilla ice cream story, right?
You have. Yes.
Yeah. He's that
Yeah.
guy.
Yep.
He's that guy.
Yeah. One day I'll drop my conspiracy theory as to how he came up on the name Commanders, but that'll be a different. Go see Handmaid's Tale, but that'll be a different conversation for a different day with that organization. Anyway, that'll do it for our week 13 episode of Football Insiders. There will be a week 14. We continue to show up here week after week on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, whether Trey's at the airport or I'm stuck here in the Northeast. We'll be here. And we look forward to having a reef back next week, Trey, and we'll get some more. We'll kind of see what we learned from this week. Each week, we're learning something new about these teams. And as you said, during Thanksgiving week, this is the time of year where these teams start to separate themselves and cement their places going into the postseason. And we'll see just who does that, starting with tomorrow night, Bills, Patriots. Trey, safe travels, my friend. Can't wait to see the sunny landscapes you'll be bringing to my computer screen soon, and we'll talk soon.
You got it, buddy. Thanks, Brett. See everybody.